from the City of Presidents. It's the All About Quincy podcast. This is your host, John Melly. Join me as we explore the history, hidden gems, and highlight the businesses with great stories that all tell the tale why Quincy, Massachusetts is a great place to live.
Hey there, it's John. How are you? Thanks for spending time with me today. I appreciate it. It's been a few weeks. Life happens in technology. Oh boy. My guest today are the folks from the Next Chapter Books and More, a relatively new shop right on Hancock Street in Quincy. You know, just by way of explanation, I did this interview a while ago, but I went and paid my internet bill. Yeah, I'm sure you can relate. You just wanted to do something simple, and then it takes on a life of its own. And so I won't mention the carrier, but I went and paid my bill in person, went to the shop, and I was helped by a very polite gentleman. And he says, "Hey, come on over to the kiosk here and we'll get you set up." And while I'm punching in my information, he says, "Hey, how's your internet working?" And I said, "It's fine. It's fine. A little slow last couple of weeks, but otherwise it's fine." He says, "How would you like a new modem and I can get you a better rate each month?" How do you say no to that? But I should have. I said, "Sure, that sounds good." So my first clue should have been how long it was taking their computers to pull up my information. I mean, here's this internet provider and their computers are slow. So anyway, I walk out of there with a less expensive monthly rate and a brand new shiny modem. Or router, tower, whatever the heck it's called. And take it home. I've got no internet. They shut off the doofenator, the Kaframus, the router. So I had no internet. So how am I supposed to log on? Right? So I plug in the new machine, new cables, new everything. And I'm trying, and it's not happening. So then I somehow managed to connect to a network. And then this is the stuff that drives you nuts. You go to log in, and they said, "We need to verify your account and password. Please enter your email address." I enter the email address. I get the email. It says, "Please click this link to reset your password." So I click the link that they sent to me in an email. Then it says, "Thank you. Please enter the email address we should send the password reauthorization link to." I enter the very same email address. I get a message. "We're sorry. We have no record of that email address." What? You just sent me an email with the link to this page, but you're saying you don't have my I tried it 5 ways. Every time I get the email with the link to reset the password, and when I click the email address to reset the password, they say that email address doesn't exist. This is like a cyber jail. So finally, I wind up talking to customer service for 3 hours. And they were very polite. They were too polite. "Oh, thank you very much for saying thank you." I literally heard that. I mean, a third of the conversation could have been cut out. I can't complain. But anyway. And then they said, "We're going to need to send out a technician to your location at no charge to you." And I said, "You're darn right no charge to me, because I didn't create this problem." I should have just gone in, paid the bill, and walked out the door. I would have still had internet. But the guy shows up. He comes in and he sees the tower, the router, whatever, this thing, the doohickey that I get the internet Wi-Fi from. He says, "Oh, that's not working properly. I can tell by the blinking light." I said, "I thought it was supposed to be a steady light, not a blinking one." He goes, "Yeah, no, that's not working right." So, anyway. And then I wound up with the flu. So I had no voice. So I've been trying to get this episode out in a way that sounds good and that I can actually upload it to the interwebs. Anyway, enough of this. My guests are with the Next Chapter Books and More. They're at 1147 Hancock Street in Quincy. Really cool story. No pun intended. No pun intended. A couple of housekeeping matters. If you would like to get on our email list, we send out a weekly newsletter with just a handful of events going on around in the Quincy area. Most of them are free. Every once in a while, there's a ticketed item, but all of them have links to get more information on them. If you want to get on that list, just go to allaboutquincypodcast.com. You'll see the pop-up, enter your name and email address, and you will get on that email list. We don't hammer you with stuff. We let you know about new episodes, and we send out a free weekly newsletter of events. The other thing is follow us on Instagram. We're at All About Quincy Podcast, at All About Quincy Podcast on Instagram. We've got a lot of followers there. We've got over 553 followers on Instagram. It's great. So we do a lot of fun things there. We have some contests for shout outs in the episodes, like Where in Quincy, all that kind of stuff. If you have an event that you want to promote, let us know. We'll put it in the newsletter, and we can promote it on our Instagram channel too. So anyway, without any further ado, let's get to my conversation with the Next Chapter Books and More. As I said at the beginning of the episode, my guest today is Helena Skinner and Kayla Skinner, and they are with the Next Chapter Books and More store, or brand new business. Not brand new, but new in Quincy Center. Helena is the founder and owner of the shop, and Kayla is the general manager and social media guru. And we're really excited to have you on this episode of the All About Quincy podcast. But before we dive into the shop and your business and all that kind of stuff, I like to do what we call the simple 7 questions. Are you game?
I am. Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for being here. All right. I'm glad you're excited. Here we go. Question number 1. Crunchy cookie or chewy cookie?
Ooh, chewy cookie. Crunchy cookie.
Oh,
Ooh,
that's criminal.
This is fun. This is good. It's always it's more fun when there are 2 people on the show. Plane trip or road trip?
Oh,
Plane
that's
trip.
a road trip.
No,
Oh,
plane.
yeah, no.
I like anywhere that's like far and exotic.
Okay. Where's the
get
furthest you've traveled?
That's very funny. Hawaii, or to the other side, going east is probably Italy. But
That's
yeah,
far.
I like traveling to new places.
That's great. It's not like going down to Falmouth. I mean, Hawaii and Italy are far. Okay. If you were trapped on a deserted island and you could only have one tool, what would it be and why?
A book. For me, I would have a book because no matter how hard things are, books always transport me to other places, make me feel better. Smelling a book, carrying a book, holding a book, selling a book. But if I was on a deserted island, probably a book. And obviously, if I needed heat, I could always burn it.
No, that's
Right.
true.
But I would be sad if I had to burn it. But a book is probably what I would take.
You could commit it to memory and then you'd always have it. How about you, Kayla?
I'd go a little more practical. I'd probably bring a lighter.
A lighter. Okay.
Yeah,
Really?
just to
Okay.
keep warm.
All
Cook
right.
my food.
Winter Olympics or Summer Olympics?
Ooh,
I'm more of a Summer Olympics watcher. I do like the ice skating, but other than that, I don't watch much of the Winter Olympics. But
yeah.
I do.
I
love
would say summer too. Yeah, I like the gymnastics and the
Yeah.
swimming. Those are my favorites.
Yeah, the diving.
Yeah. The diving.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of travel, Cape Cod or New Hampshire, Maine?
Cape Cod.
Ooh, that's a toss. As I've gotten older, I've enjoyed the Cape more, but I do like the seacoast of Maine and, like Portsmouth, New Hampshire, even the mountains in New Hampshire. But Yeah. The coast. I'm more of a coast person than a mountain person.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the
Okay.
beaches over the mountains any day. I'm not a hiker.
Okay. Museum or national park?
Museum.
Museum.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not a hiker.
All right. New Year's Eve, Times Square or a quiet evening at home with friends?
Oh, quiet evening at home.
Home.
That's what we do every single year. We just do a bunch of appetizers and sometimes make it to midnight.
I don't
Watch
know
a
why. I
movie.
got to get rid of that question because hands down, that's the choice.
Yeah. The thought of having to go anywhere like Times Square and be in a place where you can't use a bathroom for any extended amount of time and be cold is not appetizing.
Yeah, no.
I don't want to be close to that many people ever.
No, I'm with you. So I got to know about your business through Instagram, really, and seeing a lot of the postings that you must have been behind, Kayla. And I think Helena, you and I had a conversation because we stopped. My wife and I stopped into your shop. I think it was around all the festivities taking place in Quincy Center about the tree lighting and the
Correct.
parade and all of those things. And I told you that I come from a small family business background as well. We used to sell stationery, greeting cards, gift wrap. We did a lot of social printing, like wedding invitations, birth announcements, business cards, etc. And so I thought similar backgrounds, and I just know a lot of what your day to day is. And this show started as a result of a number of things. I've said it before, but it's worth repeating. Walking around the neighborhood during the COVID shutdowns with my dog and coming from a small business background and working in radio and radio advertising and loving history, I thought, how can I take these three interests of mine and do something to really help these small businesses? Because I said it the other night at a business gathering at the library. I said, thank God that my folks had retired in 2002. You know, we all went through COVID, but I didn't have the weight of having a retail shop to deal with. So anyway, that's the birth of the podcast. So I just want to showcase business owners, hidden gems in history in Quincy. So when I saw your store, I said, I got to have you on the show. So after the Christmas rush and the holidays, we finally made this happen. So I'm glad that you're here. Tell me about the next chapter, Books and More. How did this business start for you? Why did it start for you? Tell us your story.
Sure. I'm happy to talk about it. And I know exactly what you were feeling. My parents had a small business. They owned a furniture store in Danbury, Connecticut. So I grew up in a small business family as well. So I know the ups and downs, the good times, the bad times, muddling through recessions and, all the good times and all of those things. So what made me think, I was in education. I was a school counselor and assistant principal at North Quincy High School for better part of 35 years. And I had always thought that owning a bookstore would be a dream. I think, I always dreamt about possibly opening a bookstore. I would always say, like, when you get to those days where you're tired and you think, oh, I need a change in career. And I'd be like, oh, I should just open a bookstore. That was always in the back of my mind. When I retired,
why was it? What was it about books? I know you come from an education background, but
I love books. I love bookstores. I have spent many hours perusing shelves, sitting in bookstores and finding independent bookstores to visit, wherever I go, whether it's local or if it's when I'm on vacation or anything like that. Visiting bookstores is always something I try to do and I enjoy. And I usually, even as a kid, I always had a book. When we would go anywhere in the car, I would bring a book because I didn't want to be bored. I'm an only child, so I didn't have siblings to be playing with or fighting with or whatever. So as an only child, it was kind of, it kept me entertained. And so, I would always visit the library every Saturday. Books were always part of my life. But then, as I got closer to retirement from education, I really thought this is something that if I don't do it now, when will I do it? So as soon as I retired, started coming up with a business plan, did some training with the Small Business Administration SCORE program, which was great. They have a lot of great trainings on starting small businesses. And then I did a training with a company down in Florida on running a bookstore, opening and running a bookstore. And I did that over the winter. And in March, I decided, I talked to my family and said, this is what I really want to do. Anybody want to help out? And Kayla and my daughter Olivia jumped in and said, yes, absolutely. And we started small. I was like, okay, well, we're looking for a place and kind of figuring out funding and getting kind of the lay of the land in the bookstore business. We started with pop-up shops and vendor fairs. We were at the Rockland Open Air Market all summer, spring and summer. We were at a couple of Barrel House Z events, brewery events where they were vendor events. And so we had like a few places we did Weymouth Open Air Market. We kind of went around the local area to try to just see if it was something that people wanted. And we had such great feedback from the people who would buy from us, who stopped by to just say hi and learn about what we were trying to do. And people were legitimately excited to see that there's a chance that a bookstore is coming to the area. And we weren't sure we would be in Quincy. I have to be honest, Quincy wasn't where I was focusing, because there's so few places that are, number one, have walking traffic, foot traffic, have free parking, have easy accessibility, and that we could afford. And so it was, although I kept my eyes open around Quincy, I wasn't finding anything. So we were really looking from like Weymouth down to the Pembroke area, although there are other independent bookstores and of course Barnes & Noble in those areas. We were still looking for something quaint where we could really be part of the community. And that was really important, that it wasn't just in a strip mall somewhere. We wanted to be a part of a community. And then I just happened to come across the spot that we're in, which, when I came in to see it, it didn't look anything like it does now, but we could afford it. It had free parking, and it's on Hancock Street right in historic Quincy Center. So we were thrilled that we could open here. And with some minor renovations, we made it work.
You hit the trifecta there with what your criteria were for free parking, foot traffic, and all of that in the community.
Affordability.
And affordability. Yeah, that's the thing. And it's like, that's the biggest challenge is for retail stores is, that cost per square foot. And you've got to have the space pay for itself, I'm curious, part of the reason why I was so excited to see this was Amazon. That's the elephant in the room. Everybody buys, not everybody, but massive numbers of people buy their books on Amazon. And that's how Amazon started. And now you're seeing Amazon actually put retail locations in mall areas, which is kind of coming full circle, which is kind of crazy. Was there any pushback or hesitancy from people that you talked to when you were coming up with this idea? Like, oh, well, what about Amazon?
I think everybody has that, whether they verbalize it or not. Everybody, and we're so grateful to the customers we have, whether it was at our pop-up events, our vendor fairs, and people who come in store, people who support us through other means, that they were willing to take this chance and that they're supporting us now. Because Amazon it's hard to compete when they are actually selling books at a loss in order to attract customers so that they can sell other products to people. Their game plan is bring people in, sell things at a loss, and be able to get them and push whatever other products they're trying to push onto people, which I bought from Amazon as well. Sure. During the pandemic was when I think I realized that, even though I'd always supported independent bookstores, that Amazon was going to be the death of independent bookstores if we didn't make an effort to really go out of our way to support them during the pandemic when things were closed down, when people couldn't go in and browse books. It was so much easier to just go on Amazon and order it, of course. And I think then I made a concerted effort to find the bookstores that were able to stay open and place an order with them per pickup. And, they'd come out from the parking lot. I remember going to an Unlikely Story down in Plainville and placing my order, going down to sitting in the parking lot, letting them know that I was there, and they'd come out fully masked to drop off my book in my car so that I could make sure that places like an Unlikely Story or, Buttonwood's Books in Cohasset or Storybook Cove in Hanover, that they stay open. It is so important to have them because they're not just bookstores, they're community spaces. It's where you go to maybe talk to people who have similar interests, to go to a book club, to go to an author event. You can't do those on Amazon. And so that it was really important when the pandemic happened that I support them. And then I've been so thrilled with the support we've gotten because people really do feel like they want to come in and talk to somebody and, get a recommendation, not just whatever's being pushed by the algorithm,
Right.
but actually walk around and look at a book and go, oh, I didn't know so-and-so wrote a book. And what do you think of this book? And is this something worth reading? Or which book should I buy for my grandchild? Which, they like this type, they like graphic novels, but I know nothing about graphic novels. So what should I buy? So you don't get that kind of customer service from a big box store or from a website like Amazon. So I think people just appreciate the customer service that places like The Next Chapter and other independent bookstores can offer.
I agree. And I think that people are hungry for some person-to-person contact and interaction. I was at a play, I don't know how you felt about it, but prior to the pandemic, things just seemed for me, before any of the shutdowns or anything like that, things just sort of seemed to be picking up pace and people moving fast, but not really thinking. And it just there was this momentum. And I was thinking to myself, how sustainable is all of this? And I thought, just subconsciously, there's something is going to change here. There's going to be something. And then this black swan event comes in with the pandemic. And I honestly resisted it for as long as I could. I was in Dallas, Texas at the time at a conference, and I literally watched the hotel shut down in that week in March and flew home on a plane with the entire row empty. And this was before mask mandates or anything. And I'm just thinking, this is nuts. Even if you wanted to do stuff, you couldn't because nobody else was around. And I thought, wow, this is interesting. And I think, unfortunately, the technology is amazing, but I think people dove more into, as I like to refer to it, the black rectangle and the screens. And I think there was obviously, because there was forced no social interaction, human nature, we're social creatures, And so I think you've touched upon something that I think everybody, whether they understand it or realize it, we're craving some connectivity other than just pixels.
And I agree. And I think that, and we have come full circle. And I feel the same way that things were speeding so fast around us. It felt like we were on this very fast moving treadmill that if we got off, we'd crash. It was a lot. And it's hard to believe that it's been almost 5 years since the world shut down. I feel like it was just yesterday. But in those 5 years, I do think, because that shutdown lingered for so long, not just that year, but the ramifications of it just went on and on for a couple of more years. So I think that now that people feel more comfortable and are out there, that people do crave that social interaction, that we learned that it's okay to not be in a Times Square, that it's okay to be home with your loved ones at New Year's, and having, being very selective about the people you're with, but also supporting places that will, keep a sense of community going, whether it's, small businesses or the library or art galleries or museums or performance venues or whatever it is. Those are the places that we have to keep supporting because they're the ones that bring us that joy and a sense of community. I keep saying that, but it brings you joy. It takes you away from the everyday mundane things that go on in your life. And you need that in order to, I think, maintain your mental wellness.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a step back a little bit. You talk about your passion for bookstores. A funny story. When I was first getting to know my wife, we had just started dating. We were on this phone conversation, and she just asked me out of the blue, she says, "What's your favorite section of a bookstore?" And I said,
I like that. It was part of an interview. I like that.
well, I didn't realize it at a time, but yeah, it was a test question, So I said, "Oh, I like the marketing section and I like business entrepreneurial things. I love spy novels, certain biographies, all that kind of stuff." And so she answered the same question for herself. And I found out later that she had been dating somebody else and they were waiting, I think, at the South Shore Plaza to get into a restaurant, and they gave you one of those hockey pucks that vibrate in your pocket or something when your table's
Yep.
ready. And so she said to the person she was with, she said, "Well, while we're waiting, why don't we just go into the bookstore?" And he said, "Why would we want to do that?" And I found out later that I passed the test because at least I had an answer to the question.
Yes.
So,
yep. There you go. Yeah. And no matter what kind of person you are, a bookstore will always have something for you. When people will say, "Well, I'm not a reader," and I have family members who say, "I'm not a reader," but it's funny. They end up finding something that they do enjoy, whether it's about sports or a spy novel or something that they hadn't really thought about as being a graphic novel, something like that they didn't necessarily think that they would enjoy, and they end up enjoying. And I'm also a big fan of audiobooks. And audiobooks, I'm a walker. I love going out for walks. I'm not a hiker. I don't climb mountains, but I do love going out for walks. And so audiobooks have always been part of my repertoire, that I always have an audiobook going, because listening to the news makes me crazy. And, after a while, you just need something else. So, whether you're an audiobook listener, you sit down and read a hardcover or paperback, or you read it on a device or whatever it is, you'll find something that you'll enjoy. I guarantee it. There's always something out there for people to enjoy.
I agree. My dad has a funny expression. He doesn't call it the news. He calls it the sames. He says, it's just insert different characters, but it's like somebody unfortunately passed away tragically, or some politicians got their hand in the public trough of money, or, something, there's a storm coming or anything like that. It's the same story. It's just different people. So he says, it's not the news, it's the sames. It's like the traffic reports. Let me guess, there's a backup
Traffic's
on the
backed up to the split. How many? Every single day we hear that.
What's been your biggest surprise so far in owning the shop?
Ooh, good question. I don't know. I guess it's a surprise is how many people say, "Thank you for opening a bookstore in Quincy." I didn't realize, I'm happy we opened a bookstore in Quincy. However, every day people say to us, "Thank you for opening." And we have conversations with people about how they would really hope that other businesses will follow. And we've talked about, we would love it if somebody opened a wine and cheese shop down here in Quincy Center, or something else for people to shop at, because we're here, we have, Alpha Omega, the store down the street, there are places to shop, but there aren't a lot of places to shop. There are a lot of places to eat or, grab a drink or anything like that, get your hair done, stuff like that. A lot of service businesses, but it would be great if there was more retail down in Quincy Center. And people are so grateful that we're here, that they can pop in for a greeting card, or pop in for a birthday present for a child or for an adult, or grab a gift card. And they're just really happy we're here. And I'm pleasantly surprised by how many people say it every day.
People are craving more shopping in Quincy Center. They are like, you guys are the only place you can pop in. There isn't a gift shop. There isn't any retail anywhere. It's just restaurants and hair salons.
And I love TJ Maxx as much as everybody else, but now that's going to be closing or moving, with development coming in that area too. So I think that, we need more in the center. So I'm hoping that if we succeed, other people will see that and it'll bring more retail.
what would be the biggest surprise for your customer? What is something about your shop that you don't think enough people know about?
Oh, I think probably what they'd be surprised at is that we have every genre, that we're not just a one genre type store, that we have a great kids section. We have great memoirs and biographies and books about history. We have a nice section of local authors, people who are who've written a first book, who have written a third, fourth, or fifth book, who are local authors. So people come in and they're like, oh, I didn't realize you had all of these local authors, or how nice it is to learn about the local authors that are from the greater Boston area that we promote. So I think that is probably what people would be most surprised at, is that we do have a great variety.
That's great. What's the most popular section?
I think the one that surprised me the most, I don't know if it's the most popular. However, the one that surprised me the most was how many poetry books people have been buying.
Interesting.
And yeah, and also the
classics.
The classics.
We have like beautiful hardcover classics, and we sell out every single week. We're constantly reordering them.
Yeah.
So what's a classic? Give us a title.
Great Gatsby.
Pride and Prejudice.
Pride and Prejudice.
Frankenstein.
Kill a Mockingbird.
Allan
all
Poe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even children's classics like Make Way for Ducklings and Peter Rabbit, Alice in Wonderland, all of those that we grew up with are still very popular. People love gifting those. We have nice copies of those, deluxe editions that are a really nice gift. And people do love to buy those.
Yeah.
That's great.
But the poetry shocked me. I didn't know that many people would be into poetry, and I'm really happy about that.
That's great. When you were talking about children's books, it reminded me of, when I was a kid, I was reading the Hardy Boys mysteries, but then there were a couple of books, Andrew Henry's Meadow. Are you familiar with that title?
I read that.
Oh, that's a great book. And the illustrations are fantastic. And then My Side of the Mountain. It's all about being outside. And this kid both of these are young boys that go away from home. And Andrew Henry's Meadow, he winds up making this fort. And then the neighborhood children all kind of see what he's done and ask him to build forts for them based on what their interests are. And then it becomes this whole thing where this meadow is just full of all these different structures that Andrew Henry has built for everybody. And the parents are all going, where are the kids? Because they've all gone to this meadow full of all these playhouses that he's built. And it's just a really cool book. So that's the biggest surprise, is the poetry section. You also, I noticed that you host events for different organizations, groups, authors, etc. Tell us a little bit about those.
Sure. So we decided again, to be part of the community, you have to offer a lot of things that will bring a lot of people in, whether or not they want to buy a book or not. We're not about just selling the books, although that is where we get our funding. But we wanted to make sure that we could use the space for other events as well. Yesterday, we hosted a meeting of the Quincy Retired Teachers Scholarship Association, of which I'm a part of, but also that, we have been looking for places to meet that are convenient for everybody. So we have an event room. We have a smaller space where we can host meetings. And tomorrow we're hosting the Quincy Chamber of Commerce for a coffee hour in the morning before we open. On Saturday, we're having a pop-up with Two Trunks, which is owned by two Quincy residents, where they do permanent jewelry. They sell permanent jewelry where you can come and pick out a couple of things or pick out something, and it's permanently linked on you. Not permanently, obviously you can take it off at some point, but you don't have to take it off every day. And
I was going to ask, being, the guy, like, what's permanent jewelry?
Yeah, so they link it so that it doesn't have to come off every day, or it won't come off every day, so that you can keep it on for extended periods of time.
Okay.
So anklets, bracelets, things like that, necklaces. So that is happening on Saturday. Then we also have Yoga Van Gogh a week from Saturday, and that is yoga and art and painting for children. So any child 4.5 years and up we have somebody coming in that will be doing Yoga Van Gogh with kids that day. So that'll be fun to bring kids in for that event. We've had authors. We had a couple of authors we had 3 authors at our grand opening.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've had like a cookbook author come and do a signing. And we have a few more authors coming up. We have Eileen Clancy Pantano, who's written 3 children's books. She's coming next Wednesday to do a story time. She was a Quincy teacher and retired and decided to write some children's books, which is really beautiful. So we have quite a list of things that are coming up that are all on our website for people to find out about.
That's great. We'll have to promote some of that. We do a weekly free newsletter to people who subscribe to the podcast, and they can sign up for free at allaboutquincypodcast.com. And I try and showcase different events, free events, fun things for people to take advantage of. And that goes out it's going to go out today. We're recording this on a Wednesday. So we'll be sending that out. So feel free to share some stuff and we'll help
Definitely.
promote
Thank
those.
you.
You mentioned local authors that you host. How does that all work? Do they through the publishing firm, the marketing plan for the publishing house, or what?
So a lot of our local authors are either self-published or just starting out with a publisher. And so they've reached out directly to us and said, I'm a local author and I have this book. Would you want to look at it and carry it? So they'll either drop off a copy or they'll send us an electronic copy. We take a look at it. And then usually for a lot of them, we do it on consignment. With others that we can get through our distributor, we will purchase through the distributor and get the books that way. But yeah, so we have some Quincy residents, we have South Shore residents, a wide range of topics. Some are more memoir and some are fiction. So it varies, but we do have a nice selection. And then we have, Patrick Grimes wrote a book called Growing Up Quincy, which is one of our best sellers.
I was going to ask you about that. I've had him on the show a number of times and he's performed a number
So
of
Patrick's
stories.
been very generous when I reached out to him and said, I'm opening a bookstore. I would love to carry your book. However, it is only available to purchase on Amazon. And so he said, I will purchase them and send them to you. And you can keep the profit, it's sort of like a consignment thing. We kind of split. He's getting no money from this. He buys them. I just pay him for what he paid for cost. He's been very generous about allowing us to keep the rest. So it's a very nice arrangement, but we do run out of his book quite often. And then, Amazon's not really quick to send us the copies when he orders them for us. There's usually a couple of week gap between the time we place an order with him and the time we actually get them. I don't think they were expecting us to be selling so many of Growing Up Quincy.
Yeah, I got to say, we did an episode with him back in June before he came and did a presentation on his book. And he did a little book tour in Quincy at different locations. Got to meet with him and followed up with he was thinking about doing an audiobook and asked if I would produce it for him. And I said, hey, that's a big production. That's a lot. And I was fine doing that with him. But we wound up deciding, let's do podcast episodes. And like you said, he's been very generous. He's just interested in sincerely just sharing the stories and getting people talking about their stories and similar stories that they had growing up and all of that. So yeah, if you hadn't mentioned it, I was going to say, who you should talk to, but obviously that connection's been made. That's great. Yeah, it's a fun book and it does rekindle.
I love it when people come in and say, my uncle is in that book.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
That's the thing about Quincy. There's a lot of folks coming to this city from all over the place, but then there are a lot of folks who have been in Quincy for a long time. My wife being one of them. She's 4th generation Quincy resident. So there's still, I've got dogs and I'm walking around and one guy, I met some guy a couple of streets over and he says, oh yeah, my family's been in this house for over 100 years. And there's still a lot of that in this city. And it's really cool.
And I don't think it's unique to Quincy, but it does. When you're not from Quincy, I'm not from Quincy.
Right.
But
Not either.
but it's nice to know that people like the city so much that they stick around. Generations will stick around, and that's really nice, especially when housing is so expensive that people are, do what they can, even if they have to move away for a little while to then come back. Future generations, people do come back, which is beautiful.
A couple more questions. If there's one thing you want our listeners to know about Next Chapter Books and More, what would that be?
That we're so much more than just a bookstore. We are a bookstore, but we're also a community space. We're a place where you can come to learn, where you can join one of our book clubs and make some friends. You can knit a big chunky blanket. You can learn more about Quincy by, reading one of our local authors' books. We're so much more than just a place where you can purchase a book.
Yeah, and we have there's been a lot of growth in Quincy Center, a lot of, new apartment buildings, housing, and those people have been coming in and are happy that we're here. And sometimes they come in just to say hi. We have one couple that comes in frequently, and they actually came in because they bought Kayla and my son's dog, a little dog.
Like a little
boy,
stuffed Grinch.
Little stuffed Grinch for Christmas, and they brought him a toy. And so Gino the pug is our store mascot, and he is a fan favorite. So people come by just to see the dog, and which is fine. He will be he loves to meet everybody and greet everybody at the door. He thinks he's our head of security and likes to greet security.
Yeah, I've got two like that too.
Yeah. So, sometimes it's just because they want to come in and say hello. And, I have former students who come by just to say hi because they know that I'm here. And sometimes it's just neighborhood people who come by, and they'll also come in and they'll say, do you have such and such a book? And if we don't, and we can order it, we'll order it for them. So, we want people to know that even though we're small, we don't have every book in stock, but we will always try to order it for people if we're able to.
Oh, that's good information to have.
Yeah.
And can they order things through? Let's get your contact information out. What's the best way for people, aside from the foot traffic, which is what we definitely want? What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
So our website has a link to send us an email if they want. We are not currently selling directly online, so there are no direct sales. However, we do partner with bookshop.org, which is an organization that was established pre-pandemic, but really became more popular during the pandemic because they take the proceeds of any book purchases and share it with independent booksellers. So you can designate an independent bookseller like us, or you can pick someone else. And if you don't pick somebody, it just goes into a general pool, and then it's divided every year amongst all of the booksellers that are partners. So bookshop.org, and it'll go right to your house, or you can have it delivered to someone else, obviously. But you can call us, place an order. We can order it and also send it to your house from, directly from us, or you can go through Bookshop. We also partner with Libro.fm, which is our audiobook partner. And they, you can, purchase a subscription similar to the one that's run by Amazon, or you can just do a one book at a time deal, download a book. We also, they also support us by sharing some of their profits with independent booksellers like us. Other times, obviously, you can give us a call. You can go to our website or send us an email.
Yeah, send us a DM on Instagram at The Next Chapter Books and More. Facebook messages, I'm constantly checking. I'm always on our socials. So,
there's always a lot of ways to connect with us.
And what Kayla, please say your Instagram account.
Oh, it's at The Next Chapter Books and More. So the full name of the store.
Okay, and very good. All right, well, I want to thank you both for joining us today and sharing everything you can and everything about The Next Chapter Books and More. It's been a
pleasure. Fun. Thank you. Have a great day, John.
You too.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for this episode of the All About Quincy podcast. I want to thank you for listening. Hey, if you know of someone, maybe it's yourself, that is a business owner, a historian, something neat going on in the community, an unsung hero in the city of Quincy, We want to hear about it. If you think you should be on the show, or if you think of someone who should be on the show, we want to know. Just go to allaboutquincypodcast.com, click on the contact button in the upper right-hand corner, and fill out your name, email address, and a short paragraph of why this person should be on the show. We would love your suggestions. Anyway, until next time, thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you real soon. Take care.